Hello friends, last week we had talked about the ninth chord. So I want to talk to you guys about a chord that actually some beginners learn. It's a very handy chord that people get confused with a ninth chord. It's called an add 9 chord. Or a cheat C chord. Basically when you finger your G major chord like this, for a lot of people, instead of going to your basic open C chord, they would prefer to just drop their first two fingers down. It's almost like a C major chord, but it just sounds a little different. Add 9 chord, what is that? When people say add 9, what are they talking about? And we discussed also earlier about a ninth chord. So let's figure this out together, shall we? One of the things that always stumps people, and why so many people get confused confused with theory, is that they don't know the chromatic scale. That is your first step in understanding music theory, understanding the musical alphabet. I have provided links to my initial theory series, all free, and all short videos that help you get up to speed onto that. But we're going to do this using C major, okay? So we have the C major scale. Okay, so when we write out a major scale, we're going to write the numbers 1 to 8. Okay, 1 to 8, those are called the degrees of the major scale. Now, our major scale formula is universal for any major scale. Okay, so we're going to start on C, and then we're going to go up a whole step to D, whole step to E, half step to F, whole step to G, whole step. From A, we're going to go up a whole step to B, and then a half step. See, my writing always gets smaller. I start out big and grand, and then it goes down to, then a half step brings us back to C. Okay? So, when we talked about the ninth chord last week, first off, why is the major scale so important? Your first steps in learning music theory, you got to know the chromatic scale, understand the layout of the notes on whatever instrument it is you're playing. Then we have to look into the major scale. Now, if you're not sure how to write out a major scale, I get into this in my initial theory series of lessons. They're short videos, they're to the point, but within 20 minutes you can kind of help get yourself up to speed. Because if you don't understand that, I don't care whose channel you're watching, none of it is going to make sense, okay? So, here we have the C major scale, okay? Major chord. Or triad, okay? If you ever hear the term triad, okay? You're taking the first degree note, the third degree note, and the fifth degree note together, okay? C, E, and G. If I was playing that on a keyboard, okay? C, E, and G. Playing that together, C, E, G. C, E, G, okay? As long as I have those three notes together, and you get into what are called triad inversions and stuff, we're not going to worry about that too much right now, okay? But that's a C major chord, okay? On the guitar, the beginner C major chord that we all learn is this one. But as long as I have those three notes together, there's different ways of playing the C major triad all over the guitar, okay? But most of you are probably familiar with the open one here. So if I look at what I'm fingering, okay, my third finger is playing a C, which is the third fret on the A string. If you don't know the chromatic scale, again, this is all going to just... why is that the C major? I don't know, he says it's a C major scale. Don't make me pull a Dr. Phil, okay? What you have to do when you're learning on the guitar, okay? What you have to do when you're learning on the guitar, okay? But that is where a C major chord comes from, okay? Now, when we talked about the ninth chord last week, okay? If you look at a seventh chord, okay, so we have C, E, G, okay, first, third, fifth, But this one is a little different. It goes first, third, 5, flat 7, okay? So a C7 would be C, okay? The third, E, the 5, G. Now, it's a flat 7. We take the 7th degree and lower it a half step, so we'd have a B flat. So a lot of beginners, when they learn a C7 chord, which is one of your 15 beginner open chords, okay, it's really simple. You're playing your C major chord, and then you take your pinky finger and you put it on the 3rd fret on the G string. Okay, and it has a little bit of a different sound with the okay, so a lot of people are like, oh yeah, my C7. They're like, I don't know why it's a 7, but that's, okay, but that is a 7th chord. Okay, now, again, the focus of this video is going to be an add 9, but just bear with me here. We did a 9th chord last week. Okay, a 9th chord, 1st, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, okay? So if you look at a 7th chord, it's basically a major chord with a flat 7. If you look at a 9th chord, it's basically a 7th chord with a 9th. But what is a 9th? This is the magic question that everyone gets mixed up on. Well, a 9th, okay, so we have our 8, okay? We don't, as you know, we don't walk around saying, hey man, way to play that 8, buddy. Play an 8th chord. An 8th, we know, as educated musicians, that an 8 is just your 1st degree an octave higher. Well, if we carried on after 8, our 2 becomes a 9, an octave higher. Okay, that's all a 9th is. It's your 2nd degree an octave higher. Okay, so a 9th chord, 1st, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, and we have a 9th. Great, but people get confused, especially in the beginning, and I you know, my heart goes out to y'all. I get it. Okay, but an add 9 and a 9th are not the same thing. Okay, so an add 9, okay, it's basically your major triad, 1, 3, 5, and you're adding a 9, which is simply your 2nd degree an octave higher. Okay, so a 9th and an add 9 are not the same. A 9th chord has a flat 7 in it. An add 9 is strictly a major triad or major chord with an added 9th degree to the chord. Now let's take a look at it from a practical sense. Okay, on a keyboard, so we have my C, E, and G, my 1st, 3rd, and 5th. Okay, now if I add my 9 is simply my 2nd D, an octave higher. I'm going to add an octave higher. Add 9 chord. On guitar, so one of the most common add 9 chord fingerings, which a lot of people like, is when you take, so you have your G major chord fingering, okay? So my middle finger, 3rd fret, low E, 2nd finger, 2nd fret, A, 3rd finger, 3rd fret, B, and your pinky finger is 3rd fret on the high E string. But if you drop your first 2 fingers, we have a new chord. This is your C add 9. What do we have? We have C, we have E, we have G, we have C major triad right there. All right? And then we have a D, an octave higher. Giving us that interesting sound. Okay? So it's almost like a major chord. A lot of beginners refer to it as a cheater C, or they'll say a C add 9. They're like, I have no idea what a 9 is. Okay? So a C add 9, an add 9 and a 9th are not the same. Okay? So that is the difference between, that's what an add 9 chord is, and that's what the difference between an add 9 and a 9th chord are. So a C9 would sound like this. And now we have an add 9. Again, you hear the song in the Green Day song, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. But that is an add 9 chord. That's what it means. So again, guys, you know, I have a lot of friends and acquaintances, and they'll talk to me about different lesson channels, and they'll say, oh, you know, I watched so-and-so and this and that. But when they talk about theory, it's over my head, but I still kind of watch it even though I don't understand what it means. It's not really a big deal. Your core understanding, where a lot of people lack and they start getting lost, they don't know where major scale comes from. They just think that people are just making up the notes on the fly or something. To understand where the major scale comes from, you have to know where the chromatic scale comes from. So I have some detailed video lessons for anyone. You don't even have to really be a musician. If you just want to have a bit more of a working understanding of music, great videos to check out. I'll post the links. And get up to speed on the chromatic scale and then learn where the major scale comes from, because everything comes from the major scale, and then things will start coming together more. Heck, even my lessons might make more sense. So again, folks, the ninth chord has a first, third, fifth, flat 7, 9. It's almost like an extension of a seventh chord, where an add 9 just has your first, third, fifth degree, and a ninth degree. They're not the same chord. So that is an add 9 chord, my friends. Remember, practice hard, but practice smart. And we'll see you soon.